Design describes his kind of offering as luxury meeting contemporary design. He's been in the business for over 25 years, has traveled the world with it and dresses the stars. He's a fashion and textiles graduate from Philadelphia University, and he joins us now in studio. Thanks very much for joining us, Fred. Good stuff. And thank you for dressing me as well. So, many people view designer fashion as something that's only for the elite, only for the wealthy, and it's out of the reach of ordinary folk. How do you respond to that?
Well, the way I respond to that is that there's a very broad range when it comes to fashion, and it depends on where you fit and how you fit in the range. As far as we are concerned, we are in the luxury business, so we're talking about the top end of fashion, and that involves the best quality fabric, the most incredible artistry, and also the environment in which this is done makes a whole lot of difference.
Of course, my colleague Diabosito was speaking to that lady at that fashion district, and you know, for somebody who is a fashionista that does follow the trends but can't necessarily afford the bespoke type of offering that you would offer to your clients, where can they go and what should they do?
Well, we need to form a habit of patronizing South African designers. There are quite a number of very, very wonderful bottom edge, middle edge designers who are doing great things. You just have to look for them. Like the fashion district, there are tons of them there.
In terms of African fashion exportability, how are we doing in this regard? And do you think perhaps we should also rely on the African diaspora to actually market these things for us?
Well, in terms of, look, we have to separate fashion from clothing manufacturing. When you look at China, they're in the business of clothing manufacturing, not so much of fashion. So if you have the capacity and the intellect and the whole machinery and tools that are required to be in clothing manufacturing, which is the direction South Africa should go in, that's one thing. In terms of fashion, fashion is a part of the ecosystem of textile and clothing manufacturing. So when we talk about fashion, then you go into aesthetics that Africans bring into the international market.
In terms of marketing your business and so on, how transformative have the internet and social media in particular been in terms of you being able to, you know, get greater reach and earn a little bit more in terms of your bread and butter?
Well, I'm a dinosaur, so I should be directing the question to my daughter, who is so incredible in marketing and everything, and my publicist, who handles all that. But I can tell you that they deal a lot in the IT space,
yes,
you know, and I get informed every now and then. But as you know, marketing is a very, very expensive part of any kind of business. So you do have to make a sizable budget for your marketing.
And then in terms of, I mean, my colleague Nzinga did speak to it earlier, this issue of, you know, sector support. Do you think that there's sufficient sector support from government?
Well, government has done quite a lot, though, because when you look at the tariff on imported luxury good, I can talk so much about luxury good. If you look at the tariff on luxury good now, it's quite high. So, but there's also a control by the international trade. You cannot just recklessly raise your tariff beyond what the international market suggests. So, but what we need to do in South Africa is to change our habit. You know, the French people will buy French clothing. The Italians will buy Italian clothing. By changing our habit, we will create a whole lot of wealth in South Africa. But if our habit remains the same, we can talk from here till eternity. We're not going to get anywhere. So individuals have to change their habit and say, we're going to patronize South African designers. If you look at West Africa, for instance, places like Nigeria, Ghana, Mali, Senegal, you know, people do everything on the street. I mean, when they have red carpet, they use their local designers there. And because of that, their designer has become, some of them have become internationally recognized. So that's the direction we have to go as people.
What's your advice to up-and-coming designers, maybe people who are still in university, who want to get ahead, you know, around the challenges that they may face, and how, you know, what sort of tools they should use to succeed?
Well, look, fashion all over the world is very challenging. It's a very tough industry. It's not only South Africa. But the things that works, that I think, and this is purely from my viewpoint, other people can have different views. I think the most critical thing is to be an apprentice. When you graduate from university, by being an apprentice gives you the opportunity to work with the kinds of fabrics and understanding all the tricks in the industry. It gives you the chance to learn. Then you also have somebody who puts you through the industry seamlessly. So I think that if I have to advise young designers, that would be my advice, that they should look into. And in many fields, you do become apprentice and learn before you kind of, go on your own.
And the other thing, Fred, you were once a taxi driver many years ago, and now you are.
I know you're going to bring that up.
And now you are showing your wares at fashion runways all around the world. So, just for youngsters out there who perhaps feel despondent about the future, yes. Just this issue about aspiration and that indeed you can fulfill your dreams.
Well, I drove cab actually to pay my school fees in America. You get there, you have all these dreams, but you get stranded, and it's like, what do I do now? And that's what I tell young designers. Go to the industry with a very open mind and with the ability to sacrifice, because it's only when you sacrifice that you actually understand what you're sacrificing for. So sacrifice is very important in our industry. It's not about glamour, and all that is good, but it's like a politician, you must have a constituency. So a designer must have clients. If you don't have clientele and you're popular, then you're not going to feel good about yourself, and you might get lost in the midst of things.
Indeed. Well, thank you very much, Fred, for those insights. Stick to the basics and sacrifice for what you want to get. That was Fred Eboka of Eboka Design. More on the business of fashion after a break. Marianne Fassler joins us here in studio thereafter.